The past few months have been wild. And no, I'm not just talking about the real estate market, I'm talking about Canada as a whole. Now, the greater Toronto real estate market has been experiencing something that we haven't seen in decades. It's just been very slow. And I could even say it's been slow for the past 2 years. At first, we blamed it on COVID and interest rates. Then we started seeing interest rates go down. And then we said, well, the US election is happening. Well, now when that's done, then we got hit with, tariffs and trade wars. And then a snap election. And we said, once the election is over, it's going to be good. And now that's done and we are here. The real estate market is still slow. And there's just a lot to talk about. People that never cared about politics all of a sudden care about politics, right? I mean, is Canada going to be the 51st state? Are we going to be hit with more tariffs? What's happening with the trade wars? What's happening with interest rates? I mean, liberals versus conservatives, and I can just go on and on and on. Now, nobody knows what's actually going to happen in the future because nobody has the crystal ball. Now, with all this noise about the economy, politics, and real estate, here are the 3 things that you should know about Toronto's real estate market moving forward. Number 1, what's actually happening in the market right now? Well, the market is frozen. Real estate sales are extremely slow in all asset classes. People that have bought at the peak of COVID with variable mortgage rates are hurting right now and they can no longer hold onto their property. And some of them are forced to sell their property and taking massive losses. Condo market is flooded with listings. I mean, there's so many condos for sale right now and no one is really buying them, causing a massive buyer's market. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that the condos are bad. It's just that there's no demand for it right now. And of course, some of the condos, the recent ones with really tiny layout, a lot of unusable space, those are just bad and they're just not selling or selling for a massive discount. And investors have slowed down and investors don't want to be in this market right now for various reasons. Number 1, even with lower mortgage rates, a lot of properties just do not cash flow. And not only that, renovating a property is still relatively expensive. I mean, sure, it has come down from the peaks during COVID, but it's not at pre-COVID levels, right? Even labor is a lot more expensive now. So if you want to get, floors done, you want to put a new bathroom, kitchen, etc., all those things are just costing a lot of money. So investors, people who are flipping properties, people who buy and hold, everyone is kind of pausing their search right now. Also, some investors are forced to put their houses up on the market because maybe they're tenanted. Maybe they also took out a variable rate mortgage and then the rent is just no longer covering the mortgage and they hit their top limit, right? They've been bleeding a lot of money and they just cannot afford to hold on to it any longer. Now, we know the condo market is not doing so good, but the freehold market, the freehold properties in the city and in the suburbs, notice number of home sales have come down from last year and the year before, but average prices are holding steady because freehold properties are more family homes, right? People that are coming to Canada, people that are upsizing or downsizing are still looking for homes. So for that reason, the prices have been relatively flat. Now, in some areas, prices have come down. Some areas have come down even more. In some areas, it has gone up a little bit, but overall, it has been pretty flat. Now, another market that no one talks about is the cottage market, right? The suburbs, the homes with big pieces of land. Look, these areas are hurting as well because during COVID, a lot of people thought that they were going to work from home forever. So they wanted to go out of the city. They wanted to go as far as they possibly can, buy a house with a decent piece of land so they can work from home and enjoy the space. Well, now a lot of companies are asking people to return to work. So people actually need to come back, meaning they need to commute. And what that means is the demand for those homes in the suburbs have gone down. Now, I remember during COVID, houses 2 hours east or north of Toronto were selling for just as much money as houses like literally in the city or very close. And that just didn't make any sense. And that's why we saw the biggest appreciation in houses in the suburbs during COVID because everybody was moving out of the city. Now, fast forward to today, that's not going to be the case, right? People realize that they still need the city to work. And for that reason, the demand is now lower and those properties have taken a hit. And during tough times and during recession, people sell things they don't need, like luxury cars, luxury watches, boats, motorhomes, and also properties that they don't need, or they don't live in. So somebody who bought a cottage a couple of years ago and they're pretty tight financially, guess what? They're gonna be selling their cottage first before they sell their primary residence because it just makes sense for them. They don't live at the cottage. So they sell things that they don't need, and that's why you have a record number of cottages for sale right now. Number two, who's actually buying? Historically speaking, first-time buyers move the market. Well, not this time around, right? First-time buyers are nervous. They finally saved up enough money to buy their first home, and now with all this talk about, politics and trade wars and this and that, they're just scared. They don't want to buy a house, and 6 months down the line, they don't want to see their house value go down because they've worked so hard to save that money. So now what we're seeing is first-time buyers are nervous, right? Before they're buying anything, they want to run the numbers 2 or 3 times. They want to make sure that they're actually getting a deal, and they're offering low, they're looking at a lot of properties, and they're just not as eager to buy a home as they used to. Investors are also not buying. As I explained before, nothing really cash flows with current interest rates and the current prices. So that doesn't make sense. And flipping a home is becoming riskier and riskier, especially with the tax changes, especially with the market that's constantly moving up and down. It doesn't really make sense for them to jump in. It's just a lot of risk unless the deal is really good. So for that reason, investors are sitting on the sidelines. So that really just leaves you with people that are looking to upsize and people that are looking to downsize, given if there's enough equity in their home. Now, people that are benefiting the most from this market are the people that are upsizing. The people that are upsizing from something like, let's say, a townhouse into a bigger detached home are the ones that are seeing the most amount of gains. Because if you think about it, even if you compare the prices to 2 years ago, those bigger detached homes are off about anywhere from 10 to 15%. Because when you're upsizing in a market like this, there's a lot less buyers in that $1 million to $1.5 million range, versus there are a lot more buyers, even in this market, in the $700,000 to $800,000 range. So naturally, as somebody who's upsizing, you will be saving a ton of money if you can sell your property at a decent price and just move into a bigger home. Now, of course, if you don't have the financial means, then don't do it. I'm not saying everyone should just move into a bigger home. All I'm saying is if you've been thinking about moving to a bigger property, this is a time to kind of take advantage of that, because you're buying and selling in the same market, except whatever you're buying is significantly more and you're going to be getting a significantly better deal on whatever you purchase. Now, downsizers have also been fairly busy, right? I mean, this is a slower market. They can also take their time. They can put in conditions on the sale of their home and the purchases, and they can look around and look at more properties, and they don't have to be in as big of a rush. But with that said, because there are a lot less first-time buyers and there's a lot less investors, the number of home sales across the GTA have slowed. Number 3, who is actually selling right now? Well, investors that own condos are selling, especially if it doesn't cash flow. And a lot of investors also didn't expect the interest rates to go up this fast, right? So they have these assets or these condos with maybe variable rate mortgages, or maybe they had a fixed rate and it's coming up for renewal. But now they're experiencing a significantly higher mortgage payment, and the rent didn't go up as fast as a mortgage payment. So naturally, they are bleeding money. Some of them can afford to hold on to it, but some of them are just at their top line. They cannot move anymore, so they have to sell it and offload and cut their losses. People that bought pre-construction are also selling, but that's mostly happening in the assignment market. They bought something, they can't close, and unfortunately, they're just in a really bad spot. And anyone else that's selling right now are people that are making lifestyle changes, right? Maybe they're going through a separation or a divorce. Maybe they want to upsize or downsize. Maybe their kids moved out and they want to move into a smaller home. Whatever the case is, these are lifestyle changes, and some of them don't have to sell. And that's why you see that in the freehold market, prices have been fairly steady, even though there are a lot of listings for sale. And also, because there's so much uncertainty on the market, a lot of people have been testing the market, and then when they realize that they're not getting the activity they want or the price that they want, they're just taking this house off the market, because uncertainty causes people to just freeze and they don't want to do anything. So now the $1,000,000 question: what's going to happen to this market? Well, look, so it really just comes down to supply and demand. Look, we have sellers on one side and buyers on the other side, and it just depends on who will cave in first. Because truthfully, sellers cannot afford to hold on to their property forever, right? I mean, somebody is gonna have to give. If there's just a lot of listings on the market and they all sit on the market, one of them or some of them are going to have to drop their prices so that the property moves. And when that happens, it just becomes a snowball effect. And vice versa. If buyers have been waiting on the sidelines and they realize, you know what, these prices are going nowhere. I need to buy a house. We need to get into this home. And we're gonna buy this regardless of what happens, and we will live here for the next 10 years. But if on the other hand, buyers feel like the market, will stay the same way, and that they probably need to buy something sooner than later, then we might see the opposite happen, right? We might see a number of buyers that kind of flood the market all at once, and that could cause prices to go up. Now, these are just hypotheticals, but realistically, it really depends on who's gonna cave in first. So moving forward, we just have to keep an eye on what's actually happening in our economy. How is the job market? How is the inflation rates? What are we doing with interest rates? If you like this video, don't forget to give me a like and a subscribe. And with that said, see you next time.